Okay, welcome to what is possibly the hardest battle that I've had to fight yet. It is going to be the Battle of Watling Street, and I'm going to be playing the unbelievably outnumbered Romans, and I'm going to attempt to do something which stunned the ancient world. Usually in Rome, when I fight these battles, and in real life, the armies are outnumbered 2, 3, 4 to 1, whatever. It's usually no more than 2 to 1. However, today I think it's fairly obvious that 2, 3, maybe even 4 to 1 is clearly not even up to it. So, how am I going to defend against the enormous number of Iceni? Well, in history, the way the Romans fought against this threat was literally just to stand in a corner and tell the Iceni to come and get them. The Battle of Watling Street is most famous perhaps for the person who was leading the Iceni army, and that would have been Boudica, the woman who led the Iceni tribe against the Romans and almost beat them. In this particular battle, the Romans did win, and it actually ended up being an absolute massacre because in history, the ancient baggage trains that most barbarian tribes brought with them to battle were set behind the Iceni tribe, around here somewhere. And as the Romans stood in their corner, essentially a funnel, the Iceni's numbers counted against them, and the Romans could use their superior skill to win the battle. And once the Iceni started routing, the Romans simply chased them down and cut them to shreds against their own baggage train. Nothing like that today, however. As you can see, clearly the battle is not meant to go my way. Balance of power is clearly in the Iceni's favour. The only thing that I can say that I have got in my favour is the quality of the Iceni troops. There are a few good units in there. I've maxed out the number of chariot units available to the Iceni. I've also given them a few units of heroic riders here and there, so they do have hitting power, and it will not be easy to hold forever. So what have I got to defend against this army? Well, not very much is the answer. I've got 3 units of velites. They will be my ranged firepower. And then I have 5 units of Praetorian Guard. Now, those of you who play Rome 2 in multiplayer battles know that Praetorian Guard are essentially the tankiest of tanky units there are, and I'm banking on that today in order to defend against what looks to me as insurmountable odds. Finally, I have 2 units of legionary cavalry and a single unit of general's bodyguard, and this is roughly all the Romans had at their disposal. They were in the actual Battle of Watling Street, they were outnumbered almost 10 to 1. So even this is not quite as historically accurate as can be. However, if we wanted to make it historically accurate, we would need probably another army or 2 of Iceni and no more Romans. So that would be fun. So how am I going to try and defend against this? Well, I've found the place that I want to try and defend, and this is how I'm going to do it. The way the Romans defended the Battle of Watling Street was they found a place where the forest was at their back, and then all they did was they made a bottleneck, and they fought in that bottleneck, and they fought deep, and they made it impossible for the Britons to flank them due to the high cliffs. However, this particular map doesn't have high cliffs as such, so the chances are I'm going to get flanked, the chances are I'm going to get slaughtered. However, we shall endeavour to do our best, as that's all that can be asked. To be honest, I'm almost tempted just to sit in here, but that doesn't look as good. So, I'm really struggling how to find a good way. This actually looks quite a nice little choke point. I might just deploy and then run backwards to the edge of the map. It's a kind of no retreat type thing, because the Romans would be butchered if they were caught. So let's try doing something like, yeah, actually I'm going to sit here. So difficult to work out where you need to be in battles where you're so far outnumbered. So this is going to be my bottleneck, hopefully. I'm going to make the line a little bit deeper. Again, if I have more units, I would try and make it deeper and hold the same size bottleneck. But as it stands, I think 6 ranks of Romans should be enough to hold against certainly the cavalry, probably the chariots if they decide to charge in. So it doesn't particularly matter too much about the rest of the units. It was just about finding the correct place for all the units to be, because I'm just going to move backwards as soon as the battle starts. I've made sure that the Iceni are being very aggressive in this one. I've given them aggressive abilities and I've made them the attacker as well. So the Romans are going to start with these. And I'm going to try and keep my cavalry in reserve. I'm going to try and use them as shock troops to hit the flanks where necessary, to just simply to try and release the pressure on the flanks, and if it comes to it, I can use them to mop up any units that somehow manage to out. So we're going to start the battle now. No real danger about being attacked too soon. So I'm just going to move the general back, because after all, Roman generals were appalling in general at frontline fighting. They were very much leading from the back, with the cavalry right in the trees, and I suppose it's just time to sit and wait. So we can talk about many things. We can talk about how unbelievably undisciplined this particular unit of Praetorian Guards is being. Let's line them all up nice and properly again. It's fairly important that I have no gaps. So now we wait. I'm going to speed up the game to make things go a bit faster. So what have I given the Iceni? Well, essentially I've gone for very low grade troops, but I've gone for massive numbers. So it should be the Romans should be killing an awful lot of Iceni, but then again there's going to be a lot of Iceni to kill. I would imagine I'm going to be making units rout fairly regularly, but there are almost 40 units of Iceni on the map, so doing enough damage to cause a rout on a mass scale is unlikely until fairly late on. I'm expecting a lot of dead Praetorians. Another great example of the Battle of Watling Street done wrong is a fantastic TV show called Time Commanders, which took the original Rome Total War I engine and did historical battles with them using teams of 4 people. In fact, all the battles that I've done so far were on that show. Fantastic show. It needs to be brought back, etc., etc. However, the team that played the Battle of Watling Street in Time Commanders kind of mucked it up a bit, and they decided to move out and to attack the Romans with. Sorry, they moved out and tried to attack the Iceni. They were playing as the Romans, and they had nice long thin lines of Romans trying to spread out as wide as they possibly could, and it was just a bloodbath. It's quite funny to watch. It's well worth a watch. It's about 45 minutes long. What I'm going to do is I notice that they're just starting to try and flank me a bit, so I've just said, literally just said, nice thin lines of Romans, and they got butchered. What have I done? I've halved the depth of the Romans. What did I learn from my Battle of the Silvarus River? Don't go thin with Romans, go nice and thick. So, I would imagine that I'm not going to get outflanked too much on this side. I've got my cavalry to push through there, and this is fairly close to the edge of the map this side, so I don't think there are going to be too many Britons moving around my left flank. It's more my right flank that I'm worried about, because the Iceni go at least to here, if not further. I may not be able to see them yet. They're going to be able to wrap right round. So we'll just speed it up again and get ready for the inevitable onslaught. Our hidden unit's been discovered. How fantastic. And again. So even more Iceni moving out, so I'll just move it back to normal speed. As we can see here, let's just pause it. Lag is horrible. As we can see, they're starting to hove into view. They're running fairly quickly. This is going to be a fairly horrible encounter. And again, I said I didn't think I was going to be outflanked on the left side, but hey-ho. There they are. There's my left flank. So, I'll be refusing that flank as well. Let's go back to normal speed. As you can tell, my computer can't handle too much more than what we're fighting at the moment. I would imagine that I'm going to be taking a bit of missile fire as well, but I trust Praetorians to be able to survive it. Yes, they're not taking too much. They're fairly tanky. Very heavy melee infantry. Oh, the lag. Right. So, in come the cavalry for the first assault, and there is the first charge of the game. Lots of cavalry going in, and oh my god, all the Iceni, all the things, and already it's looking fairly grim. Yeah, I think the only thing that I can do really is just straight away go for use the whip just to give me a bit of extra help, and I'm also going to go raise the banner because I totally need all the defense I can get at the moment. I'm going to be charging them in. I'll use my cavalry over here. What does Draco do? That does something interesting. Cavalry bonus, it doesn't do that great stuff. Okay, well, we'll just use the, apparently I'm already fleeing. That's a great sign. What's fleeing? Better not be the Praetorians. No, it's Velites, what a surprise. So the Praetorians are valiantly trying to hold back the tide. Yep, Velites wavering, what a surprise. Some chariots clearly got in behind me. However, I do seem to have held them back, at least for the moment. Praetorians still holding fairly firm. This unit here, which one's this one? It's this one. This one is down to 124. I can already see a lot of dead Britons, which is a good sign. And I can already see some little white banners, which is again an excellent sign. What I'm going to do is I'm just ready there with the rally button on my general. I'm going to move him back to the safest place possible in my lines. Don't want him to get into combat too quickly. Of course, if he dies, that would be appalling. So it looks like my cavalry on the right-hand side are already dead, so I'm going to use my cavalry on the left-hand side to try and stem the tide, because that's where it seems like my flank is weakest. Praetorians are still holding unbelievably firm. Such a good unit. Very, very powerful. However, there does seem to be a little hole there breaking. We don't like little holes. There we go, they're charging in there quite happily. Block up the line. And we're ready again with rally for when my units start to break, as I'm sure they must do at some point. They're starting to be moved down. If you're wondering why I've gone for such high upgrades on already powerful units, if you think about this in the terms from the Roman perspective, they would already be they would know that they're fighting for their lives, and they're not going to run, because if they run, then they're going to get killed anyway. So they're going to fight to the last man, and hence why I've gone for such apparently overpowered units. I think use the whip is ready now. Yep. So we'll go for that again, just to give myself a little bit of a boost. and Ray's banner is ready shortly. There's definitely a hole in the middle there. That's quite a big hole now. This unit needs to move back. It's pretty horrible as it stands. I'm going to try and bring them back to here. This unit, I'm going to try and move back across, try and shorten the line. But actually all my units are coping fairly well, although these two units, actually everything's starting to die lots now. It's impossible to stem all the tide all the time. Now that's clever, isn't it? They're facing the wrong direction, and these Romans are starting to get caught up a little bit now. That's not what we want. We're going to try and go deep like that. Actually, I'm holding incredibly firmly. I'm surprised I've lasted this long, and this might actually be a historically accurate result. Now, my Velites are going to have to get dirty here because they've run out of ammo. My general's almost ready with Raise the Banner again, so that will help them out a little bit. That is a shock. Genuine shock. Right. Apparently I've got the victory. We'll try and work out why. If we look, if I were to continue this battle and do it historically, I would charge out and I would try and I'd run them off the field. I don't remember seeing the enemy general dying, so it's another historically accurate point because it's likely that Boudica survived. However, it's not known whether she lived or died in the battle. She certainly wasn't heard of much after Watling Street. It looks like there's a lot of Romans left, but there really isn't. To be honest, I think a large chunk of the British force still remains. I think it's purely because of chain routing. That was the only way that I was going to beat them. I think if they'd have stayed in the fight longer, then I would have lost. So yeah, let's go to the end battle screen and see how many I killed. Let's end that battle there. So as we can see, it doesn't actually